ALC crew, welcome to week 5, 2021. Here's what's going on this week. Your work, the Roundhouse chapters 8 and 9, journal number 5, and this week's to-do. So let's get started. First, your work. Last week, we examined how Erdrich paints a picture of both humanity and compassion through Linda's story, and we considered Linda's decision to donate her kidney to Lyndon. Here's what you had to say.
Malik A. wrote, Erdrich paints a picture of both humanity and unconditional love through Linda's story by showing us that no matter what happens to you, there is always someone who will love you just the way you are. In Chapter 6 of The Roundhouse, Erdrich states, Nobody in the hospital knew that she was nursing me at night, or that she was doctoring me and had decided to keep me. This quote shows that even when Linda's own mother abandoned her, there was someone who accepted her despite being a deformed baby. This reinforces Erdrich's picture of unconditional love and the idea that no matter what happens to you physically or mentally, there will always be someone who accepts you with open arms. Betam J. wrote, Erdrich paints a picture of humanity and compassion for Linda by changing the perspective of the story, literally setting it apart from the original text and calling the section Linda's story. We now see Linda in a new light, and we understand how from birth she was not wanted. Using specific words portrays the way Linda was seen, like referring to her as an it, makes her seem more like a broken object than a living human. Linda ends up being saved anyway by a nurse. I was left in the nursery with a bottle strapped to my face. Mr. and Mrs. George Lark refused to have me in their house. Consider the specific language used by Linda, calling her parents in a formal way Mr. and Mrs. George Lark. This makes a disconnect between her and the people who were supposed to raise her as their own. Selma B. wrote, Linda's past decisions were cruel and reckless. We can tell he is a careless and dangerous person from the way he talks about committing murder as if it's something so normal to do. He treats Linda with disrespect, even though she is his blood sister, and is giving him her kidney. Linda's reason for agreeing to donate the kidney was because of grace. Linda most likely had the hope that with doing that favor, she would get love from her biological family, but of course, they don't care for her. I don't believe Linda made the right decision donating her kidney to Lyndon because he was so mean to her and overall is a bad person. He ruined his own body by making bad choices, so why does this fall on her to fix him? At the same time, though, I give her props for doing it because it's nice to know there are still good people like her in the world, and hopefully she'll get good karma for it. Tasia T. wrote, Lyndon is a very aggressive, smug type of person. He insults Linda and makes her feel less than she should. He got himself to where he is, and that is his fault. He had not one but 2 restraining orders, a massive dose of acetaminophen, aspirin, and alcohol. His actions got him to this state of having a kidney failure. I have no sympathy for him, but I can understand why for his family it's hard because they grew up kind of with him. He's a brother and a son. If it was one of my family members, I would feel emotion. But because I'm not, he is a really horrible person. I don't think he should have been given a kidney. I'm in between on whether she should have or shouldn't have, because he's been nothing but horrible to her. But that's her brother. However, by giving Lyndon her kidney, I don't think Lyndon's behavior and attitude towards her is going to change because of how awful he is. I think it would be a lose-lose situation either way.
This week, we move into chapters 8 and 9. Basil and Joe try to break through to Geraldine, who still struggles intensely. To help make sense of her experience with trauma, Basil tells a story of one of Joe's ancestors and how her dudum helped her overcome a traumatic situation. The governor of Minnesota, Curtis Yeltow, has been trying to adopt a native child. We learn that on the day of the crime, Geraldine was contacted by Mayla Wolfskin, who sought to protect her child under the Indian Child Welfare Act. Geraldine shares harrowing memories from the day of the attack. Musham tells the story of Akai and Nanapush, the Roundhouse, and liver-eating Johnson. Joe and his friends pretend to convert to Catholicism. Basil knows the identity of the suspect, but won't reveal the name to Joe. Musham has a birthday party where his hair catches fire. Geraldine finally makes progress. Basil then decides to reveal to Joe the identity of the suspect, but raises doubts about him being held to account. Through Musham's stories, Joe learns of another form of justice as told through Ojibwe tradition, Wendigo justice. Then we learn about Sonia's troubled past, and the authorities are unable to charge Lyndon Lark with the crime because the crime took place on tribal land. This is just a broad stroke of the chapters to give us a sense of how everything fits together. As you now do a deep reading of chapters 8 and 9, remember to use the guided reading questions under week 5 to help you make strong connections between events. Then we'll move into our journal writing assignment of the week. Like last week, you'll have 2 options to choose from. Journal option number 1, Power of Story. Consider the stories Basil and Musham tell Joe: the turtle, Akai and Nanapush, the roundhouse, and liver-eating Johnson. Then respond to the following prompt. As demonstrated in Chapter 8 of the Roundhouse, what is the purpose of storytelling in Ojibwe culture? What is the purpose of stories in your life? How can storytelling help people make sense of the world and overcome trauma? Make sure to develop a claim that utilizes the X uses Y to show Z formula and utilize at least 2 relevant quotes from the text. Option 2, the casserole. In Chapter 9 of the Roundhouse, Joe confronts Basil about his inability to bring justice to his mother's attacker. In response, Basil presents Joe with an old casserole with silverware balancing on top and calls it Indian law. What does Basil mean by this? How does this casserole metaphor explain the instability of the justice system on the reservation? Again, make sure to develop a claim that utilizes the XYZ formula and utilize at least 2 relevant quotes from the text. So what do we have to do? 1. Read chapters 8 and 9 of the Roundhouse. 2. Choose either option 1, Power of Story, or option 2, the casserole, for journal number 5. And 3, extra credit. To earn an additional 5 points, you may share your journal entry with our ALC community of learners. If interested, please create and submit a 1-minute recording of you voicing your journal entry. You can use your mobile device's voice recording app. Submit the audio recording in addition to your written entry via Canvas. Now, by submitting your voice journal, you agree to having it included in a class video that will be shared with our ALC classes. Due to time constraints, some voice journals may not be featured in the class video. When is this due? That's right, the last day of the school week, Friday, February 5th by 11:59 p.m. Next week, we'll finish the book as we examine the final 2 chapters, chapters 10 and 11 of the Roundhouse. That's it for this one, ALC crew. We'll see you in virtual class. In the meantime, stay safe, stay focused, and stay connected.